Did you know that there are some tips and tricks with the GitHub pull request interface that could make your life so much easier? Stick around to learn more. Okay, have I got a treat for you today? If you use GitHub or other version control tools, then you probably know what a pull request is. It's used to provide a review of the changes on a branch before they get merged. But I have found as I work with customers that people don't realize some of the tips and tricks provided by the GitHub UI that you can use to enhance your pull request experience. Well, you are in luck, because in this video, we are going to look at 5 different features you can use to make your life with pull requests just a little bit easier. Here we go. So the first tip we're going to look at is how to use the rich diff as opposed to the source diff when looking at the changes on a pull request. So here we are on a pull request, and we can go over to the Files Change tab. And on the Files Change tab, you can see we have multiple different files that we've modified, one of which is a markdown file, and one of which, or the other two, are source files. Now, the source view, which is the default view, is great for looking at all the changes in the files, regardless. But sometimes for non-code files, it can be a little maybe difficult to understand what the change is or what it's going to look like. So one of the options you have is to change the view from, say, source on the readme.md to be rich diff. And if we click this, this will take us into a view that shows us the integrated changes. It shows us what's being modified. In this case, we're removing backup folder and changing it to backup FLD. And I've also added these couple of lines here. If I go back to my source view, then I can tell that I've made those same changes because I can tell that there's been a change to this paragraph here, but it's a little harder to see that the change happened right here. So the rich diff, especially when working with non-code files like Markdown, makes it easier to see what the changes are and what the final file is going to look like. So the second tip I want to show you is marking a file as viewed. In a pull request, you may just have one file in that pull request, but you may have multiple files in that pull request. And it can be useful to know once you've reviewed a file and you don't need to look at it again, so that you can just kind of forget about it, move on to the next thing you need to look at. It helps you keep track of what you've reviewed and what you still need to review. This is great, especially when you're dealing with a large pull request with multiple files. Now this is really easy to do. So here we are back in our pull request, and for each file, I have a viewed checkbox. And you can see that if I check the checkbox, it marks the file as viewed, and it automatically collapses the file for me, making it easy for me to move on to the next file. And I even have a counter up here that shows me that I've reviewed one of my 3 files so far. Obviously, I can expand this back out if I want to look at it. And if I want to take it back to an unviewed state, I can simply check the checkbox. The third tip I want to show you is how to review a specific commit or a range of commits. Most pull requests are probably going to have multiple commits on them, and sometimes you want to know or just look at the changes in a specific commit to help you see what that specific commit changed or how that change is affecting the code. Reviewing incrementally like this can sometimes provide better context and an understanding of the modifications that were made. So we've got 2 ways that we could go about doing this in the GitHub interface, right? The first is we could go to commits, And on the commits tab, we can see a list of commits that were made, and we could select the commit that we want to review, such as, oh, maybe this one, adding second or third paragraph to the README. If I click that commit, then it takes me to the source diff view of just that specific commit. Now, a second option I have is I can go back over to the Files Changes tab, and up here you can see that I'm looking at the changes for all the commits. This is a drop down. I can change this drop down to say only show me this commit, which is the same thing as going back to the commits tab and selecting that specific commit. As you can see, it even moved me back to the commits tab. And we can also hold down the Shift key and select multiple commits to be able to view multiple commits at the same time. Here you can see I am looking at the changes from two different commits. In this case, these two. Okay, this next tip, if you ignore all the other tips in this video, this next tip is the one that I find a lot of people don't realize is there, but is super helpful. And that's being able to suggest a change on the pull request. So when you're reviewing the pull request, you can add a suggestion to a specific line or to a series of lines of code, basically allowing me to say, here's an improvement, and making it where the author of the pull request could just click and accept that improvement. So the way you do that is you're here, you're reviewing the files in the pull request, and you say, oh, maybe this is wrong. So I can come to this line and I can click the little blue plus button, and it opens up this window. Now, normally what a lot of people do is they type a comment in this window. Maybe they start a review or they just add it as a single comment and they move on. But let's say I have a suggestion for how to make this line of code better. I can click this button right here, the Add a Suggestion button. And you can see it puts a backtick suggestion, kind of YAML. And now I could come in here and say, rather than second, maybe this should be second. And what I'll do in this case is I'll go ahead and start my review. And let's go ahead and finish my review. We'll just leave this as a general comment. And now you can see that I have made a suggested change. So if I switch to my user that created this, then you can see that now here it's showing me that Mickey Octodemo suggested this change, and I have the ability to commit this change. And if I commit this change, what this will do is it will push a new commit to this branch, which will then be added to this pull request, which is the change made by Mickey-Octodemo. This is a great feature. It's a great way to provide or suggest improvements without directly modifying the code, and it's really useful when you're working with junior developers or reviewing code from people that are new to the project to help them understand how to do things a little bit better. Finally, let's talk about how you can change up this view just a little bit. By default, when you're looking at the pull request, you get this split view where on the left it shows the old file, on the right it shows the new file, and then you can see the red is showing areas that were changed, the greens are showing the updates that were made. This works great for a lot of people. However, some people would like to see a more unified view. So if you click the little settings icon right here, you can change this from a split view to a unified view. If we do an apply and reload, what that shows you is now it shows this all to you in one file, right? This is the same, I'm seeing the same thing I saw in previously, but combined into one view. So here's the line I'm changing, and here's the update to that line. We can see that down here. Here's line 6, it's changing. Here's the update to that line. You also have the ability, in case there's a lot of white space or other things in this file, you have the ability using that settings icon to hide the white space, which then basically just gives you a more accurate view of the substantial changes that may have been made in a pull request. Efficiently reviewing pull requests is key to maintaining code quality and ensuring a smooth development workflow. By leveraging GitHub's UI features like marking files as read, reviewing specific commits or range of commits, using code suggestions, utilizing the rich diff view, and switching between different diff options, reviewers can streamline their process and provide more effective feedback. Implementing these tips not only enhances individual productivity, but it also contributes to the overall health and agility of the development team. So, next time you sit down to review a pull request, remember these tips and make the process faster, easier, and more thorough. Thanks for watching.